Hey listeners, we're nearing the end of our 15th anniversary fundraising campaign, and we need your help to meet our goal. This campaign offers you a chance to win a unique food and music experience in one of the most exciting cities in America. Here's how it works. Donate to HRN and you'll be entered to win dinner for two and 2 tickets to a concert in one of 8 amazing cities: New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Nashville, Las Vegas, Charleston, Ardmore, Pennsylvania, and Asheville. All donations support our work educating food system storytellers. And when you donate, you can choose one of those cities and you'll be entered to win dinner and 2 tickets to a show. So help us reach our goal and enter to win dinner and a show in the city of your choice. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15. Thank you.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
Welcome to Spill and Dish, a new podcast from the Specialty Food Association. Founded in 1952, SFA is the leading trade association and source of information about the $175 billion specialty food industry. We champion the food producers, retailers, and other buyers who make up the specialty food world. If you want to know more about membership, visit specialtyfood.com. In each episode, we want to share the stories behind the products made and sold by our members who are helping shape the future of food. You can listen and discover the inspiration, recipe, craft, culture, ingredients, and production methods that help answer the question, what makes specialty food special? I'm today's host, Megan Rooney, Program Development Manager at SFA. We're excited to bring you today's episode and so happy to be working with Heritage Radio Network, a nonprofit podcast network covering the world of food, drink, and agriculture and expanding the way eaters think about food. Today's very special guest is Mariah Hilton Wood, co-founder of Tilden, who along with classmate Vanessa Royal set out to create non-alcoholic beverages that would change the way people think about celebrating. Their dedication and vision has recently earned Tilden the coveted title of fan favorite at the 2024 Winter Fancy Food Show's Fancy Face-Off competition. Congratulations again and welcome, Mariah.
Hi, Megan. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Of course. So for people that aren't as familiar, can you tell us a bit about what Tilden makes?
Yeah. So at Tilden, we are rethinking what it means and what it feels like to drink. So we make non-alcoholic, ready-to-pour cocktails that deliver that same sip and swirl experience as a traditional cocktail and really invite everyone into that cocktail moment, that cocktail occasion, whether you're looking to consume alcohol or not.
Amazing. And can you speak a bit to, the ritual of drinking at these celebratory occasions and how Tilden can actually be a beneficial choice in these situations?
A lot of beautiful things happen around a cocktail. They are a centerpiece for a lot of our social experiences. Having that drink in hand is a social lubricant. It's a buffer in a lot of ways, not just the alcohol inside, but actually that experience. And also, a cocktail should be a small luxury. And a lot of people are used to winding down at the end of the day with a cocktail or having this sort of self-care moment. And as we're actually talking a lot more about wellness today and intentionality, that cocktail moment that is supposed to be this wellness self-care moment might not actually feel that way for folks who are trying to turn away from alcohol. And so having an option in both the social setting and in that private ritual moment that doesn't include that mind and body altering ingredient, it's really important to just have that option. And that's why we're so excited to bring this cocktail to the world. It's also why we made it for ourselves. Vanessa and I really started out as our own consumers. We were at Harvard Business School. We were standing in all of these cocktail occasion events and often found ourselves in the corner swirling a sparkling water with lime, which is the classic I'm not drinking order. And just feeling like there should be something as thoughtful as the beautiful cocktails that our classmates had that catered to us.
Amazing. And can you tell us how you got your start with Tilden? You mentioned being at Harvard Business School with your co-founder. What really jump-started this idea in your business?
Well, Vanessa stopped drinking during COVID, and she might call herself a retired sorority girl. And she definitely was used to having that cocktail culture. I am a lifelong non-drinker from Las Vegas. And so I returned to my hometown for the Fancy Food Show, which, by the way, was a wonderful conference, so well organized. And it was really fun to be able to go home for that. But Vanessa came to me in business school. She kind of pitched this idea to a handful of classmates around just an option that was non-alcoholic that still lived up to the cocktail expectation. And it was truly a cocktail napkin idea at that time. It really resonated with me, a lifelong non-drinker, and we decided to test it out just within that little booze bubble that was Harvard. At least that's how we perceived it at the time. And so we created these prototypes in our kitchens even, and tested out how would people respond. And we found that people were just coming out of the woodwork interested in an option that either they could consume themselves or that they could provide at the parties that they hosted for their friends who didn't drink.
And it sounds like the two of you really made for the perfect partnership, being that Vanessa was familiar with the profile of cocktails and you were familiar with the feeling of wanting to be able to enjoy some sort of beverage in these situations. So it sounds like you guys were the perfect match.
Yeah, I would say that going into business school, I was definitely interested in creating my own product, having that entrepreneurial bug, I would say. But I didn't have to start something right out of school. That wasn't a commitment that I had made to myself. But finding a partner in Vanessa and an idea that really sparked so much excitement in both of us was sort of that recipe for, okay, let's make it happen.
Makes sense. And how had what you learned at Harvard helped you both to run a food business? And then kind of a second part to that question, did you have any experience in food and beverage beforehand?
So Vanessa comes from PR in tech. So I wouldn't say so for Vanessa. I come from supply chain and operations consulting, and I had done some consulting work for a handful of food-related clients. I also had worked in a number of roles where I was finding co-manufacturers, whether that was for a food client or not, things that are related to product development, inventory management, those kinds of things. I also am a huge foodie, and for as long as I can remember, since my college days, being a non-drinker, I would bring my own drinks to events. I would have a signature mocktail at my own parties, things like that. But from a food and beverage development background, not really. There was a big learning curve there. And like I said, we really truly started in our own kitchen, squeezing lemons that we bought at a local grocery store, things that were not scalable. So we had to learn what it took to create a product that could meet our standards in terms of both flavor, ingredient quality, the branding and experience, and also would be scalable and shelf stable and commercially viable.
Great. Sounds like you guys had some understanding of the business. I mean, PR is helpful to know about, and supply chain is super important, especially post-COVID. So it sounds like you guys had a little bit of experience, but also there was a learning curve where it probably was very exciting as learners that clearly enjoy education and that whole process, to learn more about the business in general and the industry.
Definitely.
How many years have you been in the industry now?
So we started working on the concept at the time in January of 2021. We kind of got together for the first time the November prior. So November 2020. So it's been 3.5 years now. We've been fully in market for just over 12 months. But it does take time to actually get to market. So that's where that 2-year ramp up time comes in. We did not want to cut corners on product development. We did have to go up that learning curve. So it worked really well with us still being in school that we could lean on a lot of advisors, pull in contractors or other, experts in the field to help us kind of climb that ladder as we learned how to create a product.
Still a pretty fast turnaround. So congratulations on that front. Do you feel like COVID positively impacted your business because it gave you this idea in a way of people looking for more wellness and functional sorts of beverages over the typical popular alcoholic alternatives?
I do think that some of the trend was maybe highlighted the same way that like internet purchasing, that was already, we were moving in that direction pre-COVID, but COVID definitely accelerated that change. Similarly, I think the health and wellness movement is what's underlying most of this change and most of the buzz around non-alc. And that was definitely happening pre-COVID. But I think the opportunity people had during COVID lockdown to sort of step away from the social norms and decide what really worked for them, I think that did open a door for faster change and just more consumers now are demanding better options. I think they're less locked to the status quo because there's so much change happened during COVID that now consumers are really willing to say, no, this is what I want. And I think we're all kind of going through that now, figuring out how to respond in terms of, I mean, this is like fashion even has changed to the point where now it's so much about self-expression, life balance. It's like, how do we customize the things that we're asking for to work for us? And the same is true of beverages.
Agreed. Yeah, it seems like people are much more conscious of their choices recently. And I mean, I have friends and family and even myself that even if they are enjoying an alcoholic beverage on a night, maybe they only want one. And so then they switch to a non-alcoholic option. And it's just really so nice for people to have that choice and to still feel like they're included.
Absolutely. Yeah. There are some great stats on how many people are what we term flexi drinkers. They buy both alcoholic and non-alcoholic options. We find that around 60 or 70% of our own consumers are that way. And even when we were doing our early testing with what I would call a fancy lemonade stand on Harvard campus, we found very quickly that the people that were repeat purchasing were not always the consumer profiles that we anticipated. It wasn't just the pregnant women, religious non-drinkers, recovering sober. It was often people that we would have categorized as heavy drinkers. And we saw that those consumers were buying because they wanted to cut back. They wanted to swap something in during the night. And also because they were chronic hosts. That's a funny way to put that. But they regularly hosted and wanted an option for people who came into their homes and didn't drink.
Mm-hmm. That's so great. And you noticed the same thing with your consumer base currently?
Definitely.
And you mentioned that you've had, a lifelong love of food and beverage. I'm wondering, did your parents encourage you to try new flavors, new foods as a kid? Where did this come from?
To this day, taste testing is a huge part of my family culture. We have a family reunion coming up in June, and everyone has been tasked with bringing a taste test to the family reunion. So I'm planning on bringing a bunch of varieties of green olives. It's been a part of growing up. I mean, I didn't come from a wealthy background, but when we got a box of C's chocolates or some other kind of treat, often we would sit around the table as a family and kind of cut them into quarters and taste them instead of just eating a single chocolate. It was more about the flavor experience. It's definitely a part of my family culture. I think that was accentuated as I moved into consulting and I had the opportunity to travel and eat at some really amazing restaurants. And I did that for 4.5 years. And I that was one of my favorite things about my job. I loved when I had the opportunity to go to New York or Chicago and try the cuisines there. It's been ingrained in me since I was a kid, but definitely blossomed as I became an adult.
Sounds like such a great way to expose a child, especially to new flavors, doing it as a group, not, putting the pressure on a child to try something when they're sitting at a table by themselves. I really love that idea of making it an experience for the entire group. So fun. When you traveled and you were trying new foods, are there any foods that stand out to you in your mind as just being really incredible experiences or interesting flavors?
I am a huge chocolate fanatic.
Same.
So yeah, don't tell my old boss, but no, I'm kidding. I used to occasionally use my stipend on chocolate instead of dinner. So I had a daily allotment for food while I was traveling. And on occasion, if I knew that I was going near an area that had some really amazing craft chocolate, I would regularly go out of my way to go find that. And so I tried hundreds of brands of chocolate, and the craft chocolate movement in America has been really interesting over the past 10, 15 years. So that was something that definitely piqued my interest in terms of food and geography and the creative things that you can do within a category.
Totally. Some of our chocolate making members would definitely argue that chocolate is considered food and could probably replace any of the meals.
I am right there with them.
Have you ever thought about pairing your beverages with chocolate?
Yes, all the time. The Tandem in particular, so Tandem is tart cherry, bitter orange, American oak. It's a little bit smoky and it has this warm ginger kick at the end. And I find that the consumers who really gravitate toward Tandem, they love dark chocolate. They love that lingering flavor on the tongue, something that's maybe a little bit more savory. And I am dying to do some sort of collaboration with a chocolate brand. I want to figure out how to get them into a single product. Maybe it's an ice cream, something like that. But definitely.
That's such a great idea. And I'm getting some ideas for future fancy food show sessions, pairing Tilden with chocolate brands that we have on the show floor. I think we could do something really beautiful there.
Let's please. Yes.
Yes. So what were some of the obstacles that you faced in bringing your brand to market, being, fresh out of school in a way and new to the industry?
We've had, any startup, people will tell you, founders will always tell you that it's a ride for sure. You have your ups and downs. And so we've had lots of challenges. But one of the first ones that really rocked my boat as a new founder was finding a co-packer. And people talk about this all the time. It's really hard to find the right match. And a lot of the people who operate in co-packing are kind of old school. They don't have great websites with all the information you need. So even just getting in contact with them can be hard. We found one that was an awesome fit in terms of size. They could do a smaller run to help us as a new brand to get off the ground. They had the equipment that we needed. They had the processing capabilities we needed, and they had really high standards of quality. We thought we were about ready to sign a contract with them. We had actually chosen our bottle based on their requirements. And right before signing that contract, they made a business decision to cut their smaller production line. And that was where we would have been produced. So all of a sudden, having made all of these decisions around working with this company, we were out a co-packer. And that set us back by probably 2 months, which felt like forever in that stage as we went back into the market and found a new co-packer to work with. One of the learnings from that, though, was to definitely lean on your suppliers. Everyone you work with in the food business is part of your company. It doesn't matter if they're internal or external. You're all working together to bring something to market. And so when we needed to go back and find a new co-packer, we actually went and sent emails to all of our ingredient suppliers. And that's how we found our actual co-packer that we launched with and still work with today. Is through one of our ingredient suppliers.
Wow, that's really helpful information for people that are listening. Aside from, the co-packing stuff, what are some things you'd do differently if you could start over?
I would move faster when it came to branding decisions. And that's not to say that you shouldn't take branding decisions seriously. it is very important how you communicate on your label, how you talk about your brand. But I think as a founder, at least in my experience, we have some pretty strong intuition around what will work. And I think that's in part because we are the target market for our product. We kind of designed this, Vanessa and I did, for ourselves. And there's a much broader community of people that appreciate it and buy it and love Tilden. But coming from that angle of like really understanding what pain points we were trying to solve and who we were solving them for, I think we could have run a little bit more on our own intuition and gone faster in that phase.
How do you think people can kind of feed into that intuition and block out some of that noise more easily?
I think recognizing that a lot of people have different opinions and you're going to get different input depending on who you ask. Just start with that premise, and that will give you more confidence to kind of understand when you know enough to move forward. I don't think you should ever stop being humble about the decisions you're making, and there might be needs to change things, tweak things. Your label might not read well on shelf. There are definitely experts in the branding and merchandising world. But just know that even within that pool of experts, there are a lot of different opinions. And so I think having that confidence to say, we've done enough work to know this is a good move. We should move forward, learn, and then we can rework if we need. I think that's helpful. My motto is always that if there are two-way doors, ones that you can walk back through, you should run through them as fast as you can. If there are one-way doors, decisions where you cannot go back, you can't change, that move that you made, then those are the ones where you really need to pause and be very careful. When it comes to branding and labeling and some of those things, you do need to get it right, but you can iterate quickly and change quickly. So I would categorize that as a two-way door.
It's really great advice. What was the biggest surprise about getting involved in the specialty food trade for you?
The biggest surprise. It surprised me how much the hospitality industry is connected. It's really like within a city, within a market, people know each other and they've been in the industry for a very long time. So if you are a newcomer, that's important to recognize. And kind of it's like learning a family tree when you go and try to discover who owns this restaurant, where did they come from before, this mixologist used to work at this other place, and they're, friends with the owner of this hotel, and everyone kind of has been around the block and they know each other, which is an awesome thing. It does give you this family energy, and there's a lot of support within the industry. It also can be hard to get into. So that was a surprise and definitely kind of a fun one to navigate.
What has been your experience with hospitality so far and food service? Are you guys in any hotels, airlines, cruise lines, anything like that yet?
Yeah, so we do really well on restaurant menus, bar menus. We have an incredibly high repeat purchase rate. We are in a handful of hotels as well. We're in the Steward, which is a Marriott property in Santa Barbara. We're in a Belmont property as well. We're talking to a few others. And I mean, it's early days for sure, but that's where we see a lot of movement. And I think it's because once you put the product on a menu, it sort of speaks for itself. It's complex. It's very interesting. It is as elevated as the alcoholic counterparts on the menu. And so we've been able to price at parity with with the traditional alcoholic cocktails. And that's not a difficult thing to understand for a lot of hospitality owners. Like, you need to serve this new consumer segment. It also increases the value of each tabletop. So that's been a lot of fun to sell into.
That's great. How has your brand evolved since, you mentioned you were a lemonade stand on the campus?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for one, our product is shelf stable. It's commercially viable. We can manufacture it at scale as opposed to squeezing lemons in my kitchen. We also have a much stronger sense of who we are as a brand. And that's in part because of our experience selling, our experience watching consumers. Something I've learned is that where a lot of specialty foods spark curiosity, which is beautiful, it's not to be underestimated, but people see this new food item and they're just so curious they want to try it. A non-alcoholic cocktail goes a step beyond that. It's a truly emotional response that people have when they go and sit down at a restaurant or walk into a bottle shop and find a product that's non-alcoholic. They feel seen. And that recognizing how important this product can be to people has really helped us refine our mission and our purpose. And that has driven a lot of the decisions we've made around marketing, around product development, and how we engage with our customers.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, food already is so emotionally connected, and you are totally right that a beverage that is non-alcoholic, that is for someone that has been looking for that option for so long, is probably just this amazing moment for them where they feel like the whole world has opened up again for them because they can find an option, feel included, and enjoy with everybody else. So it's really a great thing what you guys are doing. Where do you find inspiration for new flavors and products?
Yeah, little bit of a teaser. We actually, in our early research, we outlined 3 flavor profiles that we wanted to go after. And Megan, you know that we have 2 products currently on the market. Mm-hmm. So that third one is still in the works. But the way that we kind of landed on these 3 initial profiles is through a lot of focus groups, a lot of sampling and testing with consumers. And we found that people kind of naturally gravitated toward something either savory, herbaceous, or fruit-driven. So we went down each of those paths and found that to create a cocktail that was truly that social beverage, we needed ingredients that were slightly unfamiliar. We needed a beginning, middle, and finish, and we needed something that we call an interrupter. And so that's how we sort of started to explore different ingredient options to deliver that full cocktail experience.
And do you have any plans for this third flavor to be available to people soon?
Oh, yes. We are working hard on it. We are so excited to release it. We have a few more stage gates before we can actually set a specific release date, but we're aiming for later this year. So I'll leave it at that.
That's great. Maybe it can coincide with one of the fancy food shows, so a lot of people that attend can give it a try.
That would be awesome.
My last question before we jump into our Take 5 segment is, what do you want people to know about Tilden that they might not already know?
We've shared a lot on this call. I think a unique thing about our brand is that we really are grounded in being present. We, both Vanessa and I, wanted to have an option where we could be included and invited to the social gathering while still being fully ourselves without any mind or body altering ingredients. That resonated with us personally. And we found that resonates with a lot of our customers. And so that position, I would just say, is pretty unique within the beverage space and within the non-alc space even. And that's something that we're really excited to add to the social scene.
Yeah, I saw a recent newsletter, I believe, from Tilden, where you were talking about not drinking on your wedding day. And I just found
Vanessa.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was Vanessa.
Yep.
So I just found that really inspiring and beautiful, to be honest. And I loved the takeaways that people could enact after reading that to make it a more seamless and comfortable experience for themselves if they are looking to experience a special occasion or an event without drinking.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of interest from brides in particular, and maybe that's because brides sometimes are more involved in the wedding planning process. But we were in Brides Magazine not too long ago. And it's really fun to be able to show up and support someone's special occasion. Like, what's more special than a wedding? And to be able to invite everyone at the wedding to that meaningful moment, it's really an act of generosity to be able to invite all of your guests to that toast. And so Vanessa, it was super fun. We used one of our prototypes, and Vanessa was able to do a Tilden toast at her own wedding. And since then, we've been at a lot of weddings. So that's been a joy.
It's very cool. Well, we're almost out of time, but before you go, we'd like for you to participate in our final segment, Take 5 questions for our guests. First, let's pause for a break. Welcome back. I'm Megan Rooney of SFA, speaking with Mariah of Tilden. Let's jump into 5 questions for our final segment, Take 5. Question 1. What is your favorite thing about the specialty food industry?
How experiential it is. I'm all about experience. I'm an experience junkie, and food and flavor and all of the cultural elements that come into specialty food is just fantastic.
2. What is one thing that SFA has made easier for you as a co-founder of Tilden?
You've helped us to reach a new segment of consumers. You organized a great trade show in Las Vegas. Like I said, I got to go to my hometown and enjoy that show. And it really did connect us with a segment of buyers that understands the value of a thoughtfully crafted non-alcoholic beverage. 3. If you weren't running a business, what would you be doing? Hitting with the hard questions. Honestly, Megan, I can't think of what else I would be doing at this moment.
Maybe just eating chocolate.
Yeah. Having a business is pretty all-consuming. There are lots of things I'd love to do, but I'm very fully invested in Tilden right now.
Nice. Number 4, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to a new food business?
Understand your why and why you're bringing something new to the market. Why do consumers need what you're making?
And the final question, how do you define specialty food?
I would say food and beverage that is thoughtfully crafted to deliver a beautiful experience and improve the quality of life for consumers.
Thanks again for speaking with me today, Mariah. And before we go, can you please tell everyone where they can find your products?
Yeah, you can find us at drinktilden.com. And we also have a Find Us page online if you'd like to go purchase us in real life.
I will definitely be checking that out. And you can find out more about this show at specialtyfood.com and heritageradionetwork.org. And remember to follow wherever you get your podcasts. Come back often to get to know the people who are shaping the future of food. And if you're in the food industry yourself, consider becoming a member of SFA by visiting our membership section on specialtyfood.com. Special thanks to Tilden and to Heritage Radio Network, the world's pioneer food radio station. This is Spill and Dish, a Specialty Food Association podcast.
Spill and Dish, a Specialty Food Association podcast, is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.
I want to tell you about a new podcast called Amuse News. Publishing multiple days a week, Amuse News is your source for food news, interviews from around the food world, and more. On the show, we'll be engaging with food storytellers, from chefs to advocates to people working in the field, and many more. Find Amuse News wherever you get your podcasts. Amuse News is a destination for everyone who's looking for a new, insightful look into the world of food.